Good morning, Vande Matram. Welcome all of you. So this morning we are going to discuss a grievous topic. One, of course, one oft discussed topic, oft inquired topic, oft questioned topic. This is on death and grieving. The subject of the discussion for this morning will be on death and grieving. Usually we grieve over death, not only at the time of death, even we grieve before death, at the time of death, and of course after death. So we have almost decided that grieving is the most essential factor for the death. Without grieving, I think we feel that death will be almost a failure. So I don't know how. Of course, sometimes we grieve and we try to grieve and we, of course, pretend to grieve. That is what also happens in many times. But anyway, we grieve. So this is have been a permanently, it has been a coincidence in the day to day or regular life. We feel grieving for death. So we don't know what is the ultimately how it helps or how it hurts, how it actually it is beneficial or how it is actually it hinders. Without knowing everything, of course, the thing what really we do, we grieve, and we grieve for death. Maybe, of course, I have already spoken you that somebody is about to die, and knowing that he is going to die, we grieve. He is going to die or dying, that time also grieve, because it is the departing soul. And for the departed soul, afterwards a long time, that time you can't enclose in your diary. You can just fix how long we can grieve, but actually we grieve. Anyway, this is the tentatively the we'll find out the factors already we have discussed. Even we know many times in many angles we have discussed the 11 reasons for which really men fear for death. They have got plenty of fears for death. And we have discussed 11 reasons in different varieties, different at different times, in different formats, of course, we have seen. But right now we'll see the cause of grieving as per from the Sri Aurobindo's writings, because really we don't know what really death is. For that only we are grieving and grieving and grieving, and this is we have taken that is the only essential factor for the grieving. I think this is the solace, this is the only remedy, and of course we think this is mostly a panacea, so we grieve. Sri Aurobindo, very interestingly, Sri Aurobindo quotes, there is nothing to grieve about, as death means only a passing over to another country. As somebody is passing from India to Germany, India to Switzerland, India to France, India to Scotland, sometimes he is passing from one country to another. Like this, death is this just exactly same thing. From one layer, we are going to another layer. So from one birth to another birth. But problem is that we know initially we have passed through many births. Births were there, birth is here, and births will come later also. But actually, as per the Sri Aurobindo, as explained, for sevenfold ignorance, we feel previous births we have no idea, and the latter birth we don't concentrate upon. We feel this is the only thing that we want to live as happily as we can, and almost we live in a material situation. And of course we want to know, without knowing the soul and the psychic, without knowing the karma bhadanda, we want to enjoy the life in our ordinary in usual style. But thing is that we grieve because we think this is the only birth. Previous births we have forgotten, later births we are unaware of, so we feel I want to we grieve. That is the major problem. And here in the course, nothing to grieve about, as death means only passing from one country to another, to which you probably go upon and when you are asleep. Most of the time, when we are asleep, our soul actually ventures to meet the oversoul. That is what happens in everyday life. Almost every day, probably we go very often as when we were asleep. That is, so long as one has attachment, the major criteria, the major format which comes upon the path, that is attachment, the actually the factor of attachment. that plays an important role. One ought to look at it like that. But all attachment of the past ties should be overcome. There is no other go. Must be overcome. All past attachment must be overcome. Against your in the course, that is the real fact. Death is only a shedding of the body. Death means it is the shedding of the body that the body goes, but not the cessation of the personal existence that never ceases. That is what we must know. Death means shedding of the body. So a man is not dead because he goes from one country to another and change his clothes to suit his the climate. Suppose we are here in the hot climate of India. Suppose we are moving from India to somewhere like Switzerland, whose climate is so cold. So here we used to, for the hot climate, we used simply dress, simply cotton cloth. But as to when we are moving towards Switzerland, Zurich, anywhere we are Scotland, that when that climate is of course cold, suiting this climate, we put on some suitable climate, and of course our food habits also changes like this. It can't be said, it can never be said that it is death. Against Aurobindo very interestingly quotes here that one telegram has come to somebody, one sadhaka, that passing away of her husband, means she is a lady, her husband has passed away. Sri Aurobindo tries to explain and pursue the lady sadhika. All has been done that could be done to keep him in lives. To keep to keep him alive, everything has been done, but all failed. What has happened must now be accepted calmly, because he is dead, no chance of coming back in a near future. So it must be accepted calmly as a thing decreed, and the best for the soul's progress from life to life. Souls progress from life to life, and this death was decreed. It is decreed because of this soul's progress from life to life, though not the best human eyes to look over the present and outside appearances. All human eyes, human thoughts, human feelings, it is staying on the superficial, on the surface only. They can know the deeper meaning of this death, so they can't just penetrate. So, but for the spiritual seeker, you are having some inner vision, inner value. For the spiritual seeker, death is only a passage from one form to the another. None is dead, only departed. None is dead, only departed. This departure can't be claimed as the death, permanent departure, because we are going to, for as per soul's decision. Look at that like this. Just imagine, if you grieve, this vital grief can't help in his own venture or one journey, but which pursues steadfastly in the path to the divine. So grieving will never be helpful. Against during the course, not to suck over the wife's catastrophic death. Somebody's wife has passed away. That is catastrophic. Still in the course, naturally it is sucking for him, because now the seeker or sadhaka, but actually whose wife has gone, he is a sadhak. So now for a seeker or sadhaka of the truth, must be set his mind at the normal reactions of the, not unlike the normal reactions of the human being, ordinary human being, and how they see the not in a very ordinary and narrow light, but as he is a sadhaka, he must take everything in a very cordial manner. So it is loss of the wife, loss of the, regard your lost life as a soul that is progressing through the vicissitudes of life, vicissitudes of the life of ignorance, like that only. From ignorance it is venturing towards the light, soul is progressing. So grieving will never be helpful. So Sri Aurobindo again quotes very important: human mind and the sudden, accidental or violent death, of course prematurely. So that will be shocking and painful and unfortunate for the ordinary soul, ordinary people who are living in the ordinary life. But actually, once you lead the sadhaka or sadhana life, he knows that whatever happens in the divine providence is for the best of that other best for the soul, but mind feels otherwise because it is mind living in the surface, thinks otherwise. So look on your wife as a soul that passed the barrier from two states of existence. Look on your wife as a soul, not the body or something else. Help the journey towards the place of rest with calm thoughts and call for the divine help that will be helpful. But actually, if you grieve, that will create one hindrance or barrier. So grief too long continued does not help and delays the journey of the departed soul. If you are grieving, that is not required. If it is a short one, then okay. If it is a long grief, that is naturally delay the journey of the departed soul. So don't brood over your loss and think only of the spiritual welfare of the departed soul. Again we'll go and quote Sri Aurobindo, what really this death is meant, to whom really we fear. As we have known the quotation, men fear death as the children fear going into the darkness, but they don't know what really the death is. Sri Aurobindo tries to quote already beautifully, death is not of thyself but of the body. It lives, it actually in the five elements, it actually mixes, Khip, Tej, Arut, Marut, Bema, of like this in five elements. This body is constituted, and when it is dissolved, it mixes with this all these things. So it is the of thy body. Death is not of thyself. And again Sri Aurobindo quotes beautiful. The physical death is the dissolution of the physical form. The physical form which has been formed by the five elements, so called, or just now I have quoted. So with the death there is a dissolution of the physical form, but all forms does not disappear by death. Not all forms disappear by death, but actually the physical form dissolves. Whether I live or die, I am always. Very interesting. Whether I live or die, I am always. Then again Sri Aurobindo quotes beautifully, all death is an opening on wider immortality. All death is an opening on wider immortality. Death, already we have known, immortality assured itself by death. Immortality assured itself by death. Immortal by a renewed mortality. Mortality being renewed again and again, often and often, then immortality is achieved, obtained, or immortality is. So death transformed becomes the life, that is immortality. What is immortality? Already we know, we have discussed. Death transformed becomes the life that is a capital L. So that life becomes immortality. Immortal by renewed mortality. Immortality assured itself by death. Just imagine, death is the spirit's opportunity. It is a great opportunity for the spirit, because death, soul has come to gain experience in the births. See, in one birth it can never end. So naturally this soul has to go from birth to birth to collect the experience, and with this experience it has to progress and develop. Again, it is by constant death to our old names and forms that we shall live most vitally in greater and newer forms and newer names. Just imagine. And this is the death to our old names and forms, that we shall constant death to our old names and forms. Just imagine, you have taken birth and taken a name and a form only once in one lifetime, but here constant death of our old names and forms, various ways in various times, in we have taken various births with different names and forms, and constant death, and then only we shall live most vitally in greater and newer forms and names. Again, during the course, for the spiritual seeker, death is only a passage from one form of life to another, one form of life to another, and none is dead, but only departed. Again, here in the course, death is a question, it is a big question being answered. Nature puts continuously to life. Nature, it is capital N, puts continuously to life, and the reminder to that is that it has never found itself. The question is put again and again, but there is no answer. So, no, we know, O thou who fearest death, it is life that has come to thee, sporting with a deathbed and wearing a mask of terror. So nothing to worry, only we have to take it positively. Thank you, Bande Matram.